France has branded Britain's coronavirus vaccine strategy risky and claimed a bizarre victory in the race to roll out jabs. Europe Minister Beaune said his country was in a better place because it has administered more two-dose covered jabs than the UK, but he ignored that Britain has dished out almost 16 million coronavirus vaccines, more than 5 times more than France, since starting its mass vaccination program last year. Mr. Beaune said, "The British are going faster because they have relied heavily on the first injection. If we take a look at the number of people who have had both injections in the UK and the EU, France included, we see that the number of fully vaccinated people is lower in the UK. They have relied heavily on the first dose, setting a very wide gap between the first and the second injection, and that is not recommended by our health authorities, by our Ministry of Health." Mr. Beaune, a close ally of President Emmanuel Macron, proceeded to accuse Britain of risking the health of its citizens by opting to delay the gap between first and second doses. In a broadcast interview, the French minister added, "We are cautious and we respect the recommendations of our health authorities. For example, AstraZeneca must not be used for people over 65. That's not what the UK is doing. The British have taken more risks, which has allowed them to go faster. What is happening in the UK is not something I would like to have here. It's a strategy of massive vaccination with more risks because their health conditions are worse. More than 15 million people have been vaccinated in Britain, whereas France has only managed to deliver less than 3 million jabs." French politicians argue against Britain's strategy of using a 3-month gap between the first and second doses of coronavirus vaccines. Met Pierre Colleskind, of Mr. Macron's in March, said, "Number of people who have received 2 doses of vaccinate, and therefore are actually vaccinated, 614,000 in France versus 538,000 in the UK. EU countries have suffered a slow rollout of coronavirus jabs as a result of the bloc's joint procurement scheme. Brussels was left in charge of securing life-saving doses to deliver to member states, but bungled contracts and production hiccups have sparked warnings of shortages across the bloc. The EU, which has a population 7 times larger than the UK, has only managed to administer 21.3 million jabs, at a rate of 4.79 per 100 people. In contrast, Britain has now vaccinated more than a fifth of the population, hitting the government's target to offer doses to the most vulnerable people a day ahead of schedule. Health Secretary Matt Hancock has now announced the UK will press on with offering the next 5 priority groups a vaccine by the end of April, meaning everyone over 50 would have been offered a jab. And despite French attempts to discredit our vaccine scheme, the WHO has endorsed Britain's strategy to delay the second dose. The government has mandated a 12-week delay in between first and second doses to ensure the largest amount of vulnerable people can be offered some protection against COVID-19. A WHO report on the AstraZeneca Oxford jab published earlier this month states, this, together with the finding of higher antibody levels with increasing interdose interval, supports the conclusion that longer dose intervals within the 4-12 weeks range are associated with greater vaccine efficacy. No vaccinated persons were hospitalized as from 22 days after dose 1, compared with 14 unvaccinated persons who were hospitalized for COVID-19 in the same time frame.